reshaping things. When you see Harbor East looks like San Diego. Which if you'd have went there 10 years ago, it was like, just a stone's throw from looking like Broadway, Eastern Avenue. But now it looks totally different.
It's like Abu Dhabi on the Patapsco, hun.
Exactly. So I think we're seeing that a lot more now, and it's happening very fast. It was like you went to sleep and you woke up and it was like, safety land.
Mm-hmm. So in your essay, oh, by the way, got to give a shout out to my publisher, Culture Crush, Devonshire in New York, who edited these amazing essays by you guys, put the whole book together. Dev, I can't see everyone, but thank you. And she'll be down on Saturday, so if you're interested in meeting the publisher of the book, please don't hesitate to come up and say hi. So DDM, while you're talking, you say your essay, you used to hate the crown. Talk about what you meant by that.
I took it for granted. I hated going in there. It's like, especially pre-COVID, like the smell of the bleach because they just mopped the floor from somebody throwing up, the steps. And then, Tony, who I've grown to love, who's the security guard there, who is so extra, but you just love it now. It was just like, your bar that you take for granted that has a lot of crap with it, but then when you go into a place where COVID happens, you miss those same eccentricities. Even now that things are opening back up, case in point, I went out to a friend of mine's birthday party at Federal Hill, and it just felt so Disney. Like everything about it felt like Disneyland. It's so safe, and they have so many amenities that just don't exist in certain areas of the city. Even down to the way security handles things, the level of security that they have. Mm-hmm. And then the crown, while it used to get on my nerves, because I'm like, God, will y'all buy some of these speakers? Like everything that I that got on my nerves, I felt that post-pandemic and during the pandemic is really what gave that place character. The flaws in it is what gave it character. And I don't think I was really appreciating it. Not saying that your establishment shouldn't do better, right? But it's dangerous. There's a little danger there. And I think that Baltimore very much reminds me of how New York used to be to a certain degree. The warehouse parties, the squatting and things like that. It's just different. And the Crown, like I said, everything that I used to hate about it, I absolutely love about it now because I see it going away.
Do you think we'll bounce back from that? This is for either one of you, Michael or DD.
Totally. I think it's funny because one of the things I think is really amazing about Baltimore in general is that it's really adaptable and very born to be alive. We are going to survive any fucking thing. Baltimore's been living in crisis for 60 years. We're used to it. We're the only place in the world that has tropical hurricanes in the summer and blizzards in the winter. And when the pandemic came along, literally everyone was just all right. It's we're used to living in constant disaster crisis mode and dealing with it. And then it's funny because I think a lot about how one of the things I love about Baltimore is we end up with these super weird kind of hybrid fusion amazing things and niche subcultures, and that happens because of it's not an investor comes in and is I have a great concept I'm gonna launch. It's a $30 old-fashioned bar. It's always that there's kind of a grassroots desire for a thing that then manifests. So right before the pandemic ended, we my boyfriend and I were out somewhere, and someone overheard us speaking Spanish and struck up a conversation, and it was like this Salvadorian leather daddy who was like, you gotta come to these queer Salvadorian parties. And I was like, what, where? We go there, it turns out it's in this place in East Baltimore that used to be an amazing dyke bar in the 70s that closed maybe 10 years ago. Port in a Storm.
Port in a Storm. I was gonna say, yeah, that's Port in a Storm. Yeah.
So across from it is now the East Coast's premier Spanish language drag club, which has the best Salvadorian food I've ever had. And so one of my last memories of going out in Baltimore pre COVID was lip syncing there. And then Sunday night was we went to Clifton Pleasure Club, which I don't know if you guys have ever been there. It's kind of a dyke and trans-centric kind of community bar where they just bought what used to be a VFW lodge or an old union hall or something and turned it into this amazing queer garden / kind of cruisy old VFW. And it's what? How does Baltimore have these really unexpected things in niche places? They're so off the beaten track. It's on a residential street in Hamilton. It used to be a VFW or something. And this other bar was on a totally industrial street. And I think that's the kind of thing that's really magical is these spaces that, all right, they busted the unions. Well, the dykes are gonna move in, or these old working class bars are now being reinvented by a different immigrant group. And I don't know, I think Baltimore will always bounce back because it does adapt to whatever you throw its way. I don't know if that's off topic. These are just two things that have been stuck in my mind as bookends that I love of yeah.
It's a good segue into my next question, which is about that scene. I used to go to a lot I went to the Crown Awards. I was invited a few times to the Crown Awards to shoot there. A lot of drag shows, Grand Central, Hippo, both of those RIP, they're gone. So what is the future of the queer spaces in Baltimore to go now? I mean, I see the Crown, that kind of moved over from being white art kids, right, to DDM and Abdullah.
Wait, I think we need to go back in time. The Crown started out as a kind of weirdly sketchy Korean karaoke bar that I feel was a front for something. I don't know if y'all remember when all of North Avenue were Korean karaoke bars where you were renting a room, but if you were a Korean businessman, the room you were renting was a little different than if you were black or white and renting a room to just go sing a song. I feel I don't know. This is just speculation. Don't sue me. But I feel a lot of the origin of a lot of these Korean bars was something way sketchier that, yeah.
Okay. But let's talk about that. So where are those spaces now? Because Michael, you did
the suburbs.
A fantastic essay. You did a fantastic essay in the City Paper about do we need gay bars, right? We talked about that. Remember that essay you did?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Didi, let's talk about that scene now.
Okay. I didn't know she said you guys are gonna feedback. I would say for me, I think the kids now we're in a weird space where the kids, the generations have integrated. We have to address the fact that queer and LGBTQ culture has gone mainstream. We have to address that. While there's still work to be done, the being gay of even my time coming out in the early 2000s, and now it's just drastically different. When I was in high school, you had one out gay person, and that was it. And now, fast forward, the kids are the student government presidents. They're the trendsetters in school, the leaders, like it's just way different. So we have to address that. I think now the kids kind of are so vague. Like I go to the Crown, and honestly, for me as a out person, like even when I go to clubs now, I don't hit on anybody. I don't try to pick up anybody because I don't know who's who at this point. Okay, there was a time where you could go to the Hippo and you knew what you was buying. Okay, you could go to Grand Central, you knew what you was buying. Okay, now I don't know what I'm buying. I don't know what merchandise is for sale, and I just can't. I don't know. So for folks like me, it's actually a reacclimation to where things are now because I come from a time where things were very cut and dry. I think the flip side to that is this with the new kids. As much as they have assimilated into just culture in general, I think there's a slight awakening happening where they realize that, yes, it's great for us to be in these spaces all together with everybody partying, and that's the goal. But it's also still important to have your own place where you can go and sit and be with like-minded people. So I think that we're seeing that. Just over Pride weekend, I saw the appetite for it to a certain degree. Like the Eagle, which when it reopened had some issues, no shade, with this diversity, and now it is like the girls are there. And when I say the girls, there's a lot of Black, queer people in the Eagle, especially on a Friday and a Saturday night. It's not just the leather bar you go to do something nefarious at. It has become like a space because it ain't really a lot of spaces. Like when you go to the Eagle, that's a gay space. That's an LGBTQ space. If I go and try to talk to somebody, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I'm not gay. And, you're not going to have to worry about that. There's a new spot that's opening up where Bentley's restaurant and Night of the Cookers used to be on, I believe that's Howard Street, called Central. That's getting ready to open as well. So I think it's like a touch and go. You talk to a person who's 21 and these are kids that grew up in the Barack Obama presidency in high school and middle school. They know nothing of gay bashings or nothing of having to really sift and look through things. Yeah, this is life to them.
How boring is their drag gonna be? Or like without trauma, how boring is their sex gonna be?
Would it be like norm drag? It would just be like norm drag, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be like, it's all just gonna look like a Dis magazine like stock image of like yoga pants at the Target.
It is very, very bad.
So DDM, what you're saying is in that big comfy chair that you're just gonna start hanging out at Leon's, right? And just drink over at Leon's and go home. No, I'm just teasing.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of that, so last night I got trapped in the rain walking home and ducked into Leon's and had a drink after, first I went to Brewers Art, then I went to Leon's. But I walked into Leon's and literally the entire bar was just like a range of bears all talking about how much they love Star Trek. The bar was full of people, and I was just randomly blurted out, "Why don't we start a queer Star Trek night at a straight bar?" And everyone was like, "Yes, let's do that." And that's the kind of weird, what I was saying, weird hybrid, accidental things I love about Baltimore, where you just end up with weird niche, subcultural things happening, kind of by coincidence or something.
It looks strange.
Well, it's interesting about Leon's because there's a Baltimore photographer named Aubrey Berdini who worked in that neighborhood for a long time and did a lot of nightlife shooting on Tyson Street. And we got a couple one on a historical question, but Leon's has been a space. It was like a speakeasy, a gay speakeasy for a long time.
Yeah,
in the 40s. So it's been legit that space for a long time. Even when he was working at night, he's one of the photographers I kind of looked at with the nighttime work. Was Godin along with Versailles. I always saw kind of Baltimore as this like Paris of the 30s, where you could move freely through, this different tapestry of the city, right? And I think that I try to communicate that in the book, the best that I could, with like kind of drawing all these scenes together. But I don't know if that's going to happen anymore, like DM said, with like the new generation not really I don't know, like going out or doing things like that. So, but Michael, you've lived in Miami, you've lived in other cities, even like during COVID. I mean, where do you see the nightlife scene going next?
It's weird because I think in everywhere there are problems, and there are, in Mexico City, like gentrification has been brutal. Like nightlife in our neighborhood, which used to be amazing, sucks now. And I think that it's weird because like I think when I lived in like LA for just not even a few months, because I was just like, I hate this. It's like lack of like kind of the spontaneous organic nightlife you have in places like Baltimore or Philadelphia or Brooklyn. Like doesn't, it's not like in LA people are like getting off the train or getting off the bus and like walking home and they run into a friend and they're like, oh, let's grab a drink at the bar on the corner. It's like, oh, you spend 4 hours getting ready, and then you like get in an Uber that costs like $45 to go to a hotel bar, and it's like all like a plan you made like 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And that, I don't know, it's weird. Like I feel like a lot of places are like kind of losing nightlife, but there are some places that will always have good like local nightlife. If that makes any sense, just because out of the conditions of life, like we need good nightlife in Baltimore because daytime is bleak.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like that whole that station North Carter, besides the Crown right now, is kind of quiet, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean that's also
Joseph isn't open, like his space isn't open right now. Nothing on North Avenue is open right now.
And I think a lot of that is indicative of a development strategy that's really influenced by like a DC/suburban model, where for a long time Baltimore has relied on the idea that assembling large swaths of city under one ownership is a good idea, and it's a terrible idea. It's like the thing that makes, like the thing that historically has made Baltimore and Philadelphia and Tokyo and all these cities that have small lots really vibrant is the fact that it is small lots and lots of individual property owners and niche things. You can have something like the Depot a few blocks from 1722, a few blocks from like a million Korean karaoke bars, a block from an all-night pizzeria place, and all of these like little businesses. And then I think like the trend over the past like 20 years in Station North has been developers assembling like large chunks of buildings and land banking them kind of. So there are like two people in general who own a disproportionate amount of the neighborhood. And I'm not going to name names, but
we know.
Oh, actually 3 people. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So like these 3 people own an entire neighborhood, which is insane. What? Like
they're just sitting there.
Yeah, can we call in the people from Hoarders and be like, okay, Marie Kondo says like you owning every 3rd storefront on this block is not sparking any joy. Sell.
Yes.
Like so I think that's a problem. But like maybe that's when I look at areas that are like a little bit peripheral to exactly like the Charles Street corridor, like you know, God, I hate myself for referring to it as this, but the Bromo Seltzer Arts District, or
Heal.
yeah, like Waverly, like there's exciting things happening in a lot of places that are a little bit on the periphery of an area that's hyper speculated.
Right. So before we're going to open up the questions in a minute. I want each of you to tell me or tell the audience, what is your best nightlife story in the city? You knew this was coming. Come on, everyone asked that question. That's evergreen. Come on.
Okay. It can be about anything. It doesn't have to, because I have like a few. All right, so I'm gonna pick one. All right, so this is kind of self-indulgent, but my favorite nightlife story, and this is one of my favorites because of the history involved. It was the night that my group at the time, Broad Street District, we had put out our first studio project, and we had sold out the Autobahn, right? So we brought in the lighting guy from the Howard Theater. We created this elaborate church design, packed the place out. And down the street at the Crown, well, a couple blocks down, because not down the street, Abdi had his party, Cologne. And that was also packed as well. But what I liked about that night was the set design. And it was like such a synergy, because I feel like that was one of the second wave of linchpins of DIY entertainment at its best. Like, you had lighting, you had set design, people came out dressed. Like, you just don't see that all the time. And I like that people were entertained that night. You went into the Crown, and they had projections where it looked like ticker tape going all around the club that night with like headlines and different people, and then our show as well. And people just had a really, 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 really good time. And I feel like for the DIY scene, that happens in chunks. Like, you have that kind then the era before it with like celebrations, feature hours. I remember they had their show with the clouds coming out of the sky and the church, and it was Katrina and Sam, and it just is a thing. So that's one of my favorite nights because of just the show value, and it showed a real testament to the Baltimore way, which is you do not have to have the most money, but you do have to have the most imagination and the most heart.
Yeah, I really miss like Transmodern Festival, right? Like all
my
those.
God, yes.
Like Baltimore has this weird like ability to just concoct these festivals, right? Like Scapecape and Transmodern Fest, and everybody could just come together. Like the H&H building, right? It was like ground zero for all these teams, right?
And it's like a fraction of the money that like the Baltimore Office of Promotion and the Arts and like Visit Baltimore and all these people gave in terms of like tax breaks to people to film HBO shows here, or like, buying billboards in Minneapolis that say, have your next convention at the Baltimore's convention center. Like, went to like being like, okay, what do you need to make something like Wartscape sustainable? Like insurance? Yeah, like here, let's sustain that. Because like the number of people I know who moved to Baltimore because they came for an event like Wartscape or like a DIY queer film festival and then just fell in love with the city is it's probably like a bigger draw than people who come to school to Hopkins and never leave like their fear bubble until they get like placed in a residency at a hospital in the suburbs in like a swing state or whatever. And that's like I don't know, I get frustrated sometimes at kind of the amount of missed opportunities. But back to the like what are really memorable nights.
We have questions of this one.
So there's like too many nights that I don't remember.
Get that mute.
There's like too many nights that I don't remember. But what is the best? I feel like the best nights are the ones that are like so weird because it's just like like you couldn't have planned the bizarre sequence of spaces in which you end up, where like it goes from like an art opening to, you know, like a thing to like a crazy like gay after party to like someone's warehouse apartment. I don't know. Like maybe one was a night we were all at the Club Charles and Dan Deacon was like, wait, none of us have ever been to 1722. That's insane. He's like, I just got like a deal for something. I've got cash to spare. I'm inviting everyone at the bar to 1722. So we all kind of like crashed, like kind of like it was like a kind of like really mainstream like circuit gay party, and then all these like copycat weirdos came
and like totally crashed it. That was one of my favorite things was like being around at like 4 a.m. and like watching people stumble out of 17, you know, like the sunlight, like this, like in the sunlight was like amazing. That was cool. Okay, so we're gonna get to the audience question. So we have a question from this audience member, Sam Sessa. He's asking, hi Sam. I'm gonna ask DDM. In the 90s, DC had one of the best music scenes around. Gentrification pushed most of that out. How long before that happens to Baltimore? Go ahead, DDM.
I honestly think that Baltimore will continue to live. I think as long as people can live here, we'll always find a way. There's always new kids reinventing. So I don't think we'll have that problem because the one difference between Baltimore and DC, Baltimore is such an insular place. It is very like people don't say I'm from Maryland, they say I'm from Baltimore, versus where people can be from Prince George's County, Lanham, and say, oh, I live in DC, but you really don't. That's the difference here. I think that Baltimore continues to reinvent, and there's always a new way. Water finds a way, and Baltimoreans definitely move like water. So I don't see it happening. Will it face its challenges? Absolutely, but I don't really see it happening in my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's funny because like it's strange because with Baltimore it's always like 5 steps forward, or like or 4 steps forward, 5 steps back, you know, and like the difference is in the rest of the world, like a lot of places are like gentrification is happening so much more rapidly and so like on such a scale that it's just like brutal. And here, yeah, it's happening, and we might lose like one amazing warehouse space that feels like a huge blow to us in a year. But in a lot of other cities, it's like they're losing entire neighborhoods to like Airbnb. It's insane. And here, because we still do have a lot of like, I think like the thing that maybe we take for granted and that like policymakers take for granted is that like there is so much extra Baltimore that is like, you know, what we have like 40,000 empty housing units, but like it's not that that's necessarily like accessible to people. Mm-hmm. So gentrification is like a huge problem, but also it's not a problem that feels prescient when you live in a city where like half the city's empty, but the two are like related problems, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. But I do think that we do have more wiggle room than other cities, and I hope that like we figure shit out of how to sort of like take advantage of the resources we have and nurture the community we have before, you know, literally all these places we take for granted because we live in a city full of empty buildings are suddenly a scarcity, and there aren't, you know, spaces like the Copycat all of a sudden.
Well, we do. I mean, it's an odd scene, right? Like in DDM, you probably remember this. Like, you know, our hip hop scene, right? Mully, you go like to the mid 2000s. Can you talk about why, you know, the Baltimore music scene, kind of the underground music scene and stuff, never took off on the hip hop side like it did on kind of the white privilege side of that scene?
I would say knowledge is power. A lot of those kids from that time did, like, the music industry is a good old boys club. in every sense of the word, even in the hip hop scene, right? If you don't have somebody walking you in, if you don't have somebody in these industry, places looking out for you, it's going to be very difficult. And the thing with Baltimore, as it pertains to hip hop perspective, the industry loves the cosign of Baltimore. They love to send their artists here for the credibility and the recognition, but they don't want to really deal with Baltimore rappers because there's this quiet saying behind the scenes that A, they don't know if they're going to live long enough to live out the terms of the deal. B, we had a reputation as savages, quote unquote, because we were too direct in our language and speech. Baltimore is everything that hip hop is supposed to be, but then when you go into the business side of it and actually go in the offices, you find that really hip hop is like going to college. It's really ran like a college campus. It is not what it was. In Baltimore, we really live what we say. We really, if an artist is saying something, 9 times out of 10 they mean it, or they have some kind of firsthand experience to it, and they're not selling it. I also think that the kids of that era didn't understand the art of selling celebrity. When you look at, the artists that come out of Atlanta, they're very polished now. When you look at the West Coast and, New York and things like that, they understand investing in their celebrity. Baltimore is going to come out and pair New Balances, some jeans, a bomber jacket, and it's going to be that. Okay, especially in that era, versus you see these artists from Atlanta. At that time, they had a look, an image, and things like that. There were so many things that Baltimore, that those artists of that day just did not know. And to be fair to them, it's not like the kids now, because the kids that's coming out of Baltimore now, they get it, okay, and they teach. Because they have YouTube, they have Instagrams, and up until the advent of MySpace and the true advent of social media, it was hard to be a global citizen. Now you can be from Park Heights and be a global citizen. A kid from Park Heights can now order offline and dress like a kid from London. He understands the verbiage in Atlanta. You have all of these things. Whereas a kid from Baltimore was a kid from Baltimore. And they talked about and lived and conducted themselves in the Baltimore way. And that is the real difference.
Ooh, all right. We got a couple of audience questions. One's for me. Did you know there was a librarian in the book? I do now. It's probably one of my favorite pictures in the book of it's the crowd surfing photo. Is that correct? Tracy, you want to chime in? That's the crowd surfing photo. And then we have another audience question. Does anyone take interest in Baltimore's history going back to the 1850s, 1860, etc.? Compared to the past and present, my family came to Baltimore from Germany in 1840 and began their family and careers in Baltimore through those years. I will say that the block is still there. You want to compare then and now. I think there were probably a lot more nighttime fights and people sleeping in the gutter, like Edgar Allan Poe and stuff like that. So the city's probably safer now than it was, honestly, in the 1860s. You don't get run over by horses anymore, right? That's a good thing.
Much less dysentery.
Dysentery, right? No dysentery.
We practically beat it.
Yes. Well, it's
still wearing my ribbon.
I'm not taking that vaccine. I'm not taking that dysentery vaccine.
Yeah.
But on a nightlife note, though, nighttime note, Baltimore has the first gas light in the country.
Yes.
We invented gaslighting.
I was just going to say
and that is why Gen Z doesn't want to come out anymore.
Yes, because we've invented gaslighting. Do we have any more audience questions out there? Okay, you don't know a bit much. How do you see nightlife? You hit on this a bit. This company. How do you see nightlife shifting as the city reopens with events like Pride? Do you see the shift to even more outdoor events? Yes, right. I mean, more outdoor events, I think, and that's a better thing. We had a lot of outdoor events, though, right? Like all the different scapes, right, and all of the fests were all outdoors. We already had a lot of outdoor events. I'd like to see a complete reboot of Artscape, right? Like I'd like to see a really good reboot of Artscape. Like,
God, I miss like peak Artscape. Yeah.
Yeah, like one of you two running Artscape would be amazing. You know.
I would be themed down. It would be like, don't ask me to do. It'll be WrestleMania out in Artscape. I can't. Don't. Maybe I'm not the person to do Artscape because it'll be a spectacle.
That's what we need, right?
We'll collaborate.
Yeah. Budget gone.
Yeah.
Like someone at Bopa is like flipping out, like fuck.
That's what we need. Yeah, I know, right? Right now they're like, oh my god, why did he? No, but I think there's gonna be more outdoor events. I think things will be more outdoors. I don't think people are gonna be cramming much. Although I don't know. I was in Fells Point on an assignment wearing 2 masks, you know, like 4 months ago, and people were just like crammed into the cat's eye like nothing was going on, right?
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so the city, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I don't think that the younger generation is probably going to cram into bars much anymore. Like these from older people in Fells, you know, places like that. Yeah, so I don't know. All I know is I want to go to a drag show. I need to get back. Like I would love a good. We had a really good that drag club that was on St. Paul. The one that's in the book with Sorica is in the book. Where the original Red Image used to be.
Wait, that was a drag club?
Yeah, that was a. You this was in your Mexico City, Miami.
Oh yeah.
Moving around. Yeah, so I'd like to see like more of that part of the nightlife come back.
Is that space cursed? Because I feel like it's been like
not anymore.
I feel like it's been like 8 different things.
Yeah, it was called the Lounge, I think, but now it's a fantastic. It's like a Mexican restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Taco place.
Yeah, but I mean, have you been there, DD?
I've had one taco, and I thought it was good, and I love their branding and their overall aesthetic. So, shoot me.
They got the stand. So, does anybody before because we're gonna probably wrap it up. We got like a few minutes left. Anybody have any like photography questions, like as far as like shooting at night, things like that, like technical questions out there? Like we can talk about close stuff all the time. If anyone has any questions, we got there's one Q&A. Baltimore has a very rich history of house music. Okay, here we go. Baltimore has a very rich history of house music. Does the international artists and producers still live here and support the city? Can you comment on how the Baltimore house music scene has contributed to the nightlife here as a whole? Did you get that? DDM? Or I'll put it out to you, because you DJed before too, Michael, so I'll put that out to either one of you.
Actually, it was the lifeblood, especially like when you go to like the Paradox, which my piece kind of touches on, in places like that. It was like the lifeline of the scene. Even now, like there's a huge resurgence amongst the young kids. Like you go to like a lot of these places now, as they open it and you're listening to what they want to hear. The young kids are like bringing house back, albeit with a twist. But house music really never goes anywhere. It's a huge contributor to the soundtrack of Baltimore. That's just the fact. And it's just, it's huge.
A woman, okay, we have another Q&A. Also, what are you using? Oh, this is me. What ISO are you using at night? Are you pushing the film? What's my favorite film? Okay, that's an excellent question. That's from Marie. So Marie, I use a 3200 speed film. So this is 25 years worth of Baltimore. So I started off with really high speed film, 3200. Most of these are no flash, believe it or not. These are mostly done with just my Minolta X700 and 3200. And I don't really push at all. And I think I've used maybe only 3 different cameras over the course of this whole project. Like that picture right here, that's in Friends in Fells Point. That was right at closing. Yeah, I know. That was 3200 speed. I don't mind that it's like out of focus. This is 3200. That's Bertha's, trombone player at Bertha's. Very, very kinetic. I wanted a lot of like motion. This is my homage to Toulouse-Lautrec's poster at the Moulin Rouge. This is at a party at the Belvedere with the dancer. I forgot his name. This is one of the crime scene photos. This is in East Baltimore. And I do want to address this like before we wrap up about including the crime scene pictures in the book. I talked to a lot of, I talked to some photojournalist peers of mine. I spoke to Devin. I spoke to Shay. I sent her dummies of the book. I wanted to make sure that we were sensitive about putting the crime scene pictures in the tapestry of the whole nightlife in Baltimore without being exploitive of what was going on in the city. And then when I spoke to my editor, Deborah in New York, she wanted to make sure that you had all these, you had dance pictures, and then this is what was going on in the city outside of the clubs in the rest of the city. So we didn't want to neglect that part of the city. So we tried to make an entire tapestry of kind of the nightlife world. In nightlife not being like clubs, but at night world, like in the city, and that's all part of the book. So I hope that when you go through this, people understand like this is what goes on outside of the clubs and the partying. There is a lot of things, there's a lot of things going on in the city, and the crime scene photos were chosen for more of the mood of what was going on, not specific incidences of what was going on. So as not to be exploitive of the crimes that were happening. So I hope that came across when you're going through the book. So I waited about 20 minutes for him to light up that cigarette to get into that window. By the way, I was very patient with that one. I wanted someone to fill that window in. And I roam around, and I go to different, I went to different neighborhoods. That's from the Skywalk. It's no longer there. That's by the Mechanic Theater. There was a performance of Angels in America at the Mechanic, and I went up on the Skywalk, and then this ambulance went by, and I snapped that. That's from like 1996.
Okay, can I interrupt you really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
An observation.
Yeah.
So I was really mad when they tore up all the skywalks, and I was thinking about that the other day because my gym is like a block from here, from where this photo was taken, and I was waiting at this very intersection to cross the street and thinking about this photo and like how much I missed like the Mechanic and the skywalks, and how Baltimore, like the people who have power in Baltimore, are this very like short-sighted kind of like provincial view of things. And the fact that they tore out all of the skywalks, like 3 years before the High Line opened, and all of the world was like, oh, we want elevated parks.
I know, it's crazy. We have the city has no vision for anything. I really don't. There's no vision, and the Mechanic is just an empty lot. This is actually where the Row House Bar is in Federal Hill. This used to be a diner. This is their last night before they closed. I know. This is roaming around, and I tell my students, and I wrote it in my intro. People have to understand that this is walking around at night with a camera is a very, very white privileged space to be in. The experience for a photographer, of color, a black photographer, a female photographer, is very different than a white male photographer. I'm not going to be stopped by the police for having a camera. I'm not going to be harassed walking through an alley. It's traditionally been a very, very white male space, and that has to be acknowledged. Like up front, there's an absolute privilege to walking around at night with a camera in any city, not just here. And if you look at the history of night photography, it is dominated by white men, right? As is most of history, but we don't have time to get into that right now. But yeah, so that has to be acknowledged. And I'm a guest. I look at myself as a guest in these places. I don't have a right to be there. I look at myself as a guest in their house. At every one of these scenes. If I'm invited to a drag show, I'm a guest at that show, and someone says, "Don't take a picture," I don't take a picture. I'm a guest in their house. If I go to a scene and someone says, "Hey man, put the camera down," I put the camera down because I'm a guest at that house. So that's how I see myself kind of navigating through it. This was a great night, by the way. I'll stop preaching. But if you go back to this one, I think my best nightlife story is I had to go to cover. I went down to Federal Hill to Rope Walk to cover Barack Obama's when he was reelected, and all the white people were in tears and crying when he got reelected. And then I got to go up to Grand Central when they passed the gay marriage bill. This is from Grand Central. These two have been dating for like 10 years, so I hope they're married. I have their names somewhere, but I tried to contact them and I didn't get anywhere in the email. But it was a great night. So I got to see all these like kind of butthurt Republicans down in Rope Walk because the black president won again. And I went up.
Wait, there are Republicans in Baltimore City?
Oh my God, yeah, no, right.
Wait,
it was a whole bar full of it was a whole bar full of Baltimore Sun commenters.
Wow.
So,
I always just assumed those people lived in like Colombia or White House.
No. There's a bronze Ronald Reagan statue in Rope Walk.
Ew, gross.
Yeah. So
that's why nobody goes there.
I know, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, this is at Pop's Tavern. This is one of I love this couple. This is in the back room of Pop's Tavern. But so I hope everyone that has a copy of the book, There's Future Island. I love just the crowd in front is like a Beatles show. Like this is why if you look at the people in the front row, this is why I picked this picture. For this was they just look like they're like one of those early Beatles shows, right? Like everybody, like it transcends gender. Like look at people. They're just so like mesmerized by Sam and Future Island, like yeah. But this is the librarian, I think, right? So someone in this crowd is very high up in Marilyn Mosby's office. That's all I'm saying. Somebody in this crowd. I've already been alerted to that, and yeah, he sent me an email. He's like, "I'm in that crowd, man. Like, I can't believe the pictures." He's fine with it. He loved it. He's a big music fan. So yeah, this was one of the pictures that I love. This crowd surfing picture. This is the kind of thing I don't think you'll see anymore. Whoever asked that question earlier about nightlife and stuff, I don't think you'll see people touching other people anymore in situations like this. I think club dancing and things will be almost like silent disco type dancing, right? Like I don't think it'll be this like grabby. This was amazing. This was the 4 hours of funk party with the break dancers in the back. They would kind of like keep to the back of the room, right? Like I love these guys. Yeah, this is great. They would kind of like monopolize the back of the room. And 2 of these dancers were from the dance group, the Incredible Sushi Kings. You did a story in them in City Paper. So yeah, I love these break dancers. But again, like I don't think you'll see people sweating and stuff like this in bars. This is the part that I think will be missing from the nightlife scene. People will stand around and drink and maybe get like a little dance on, but I don't think they'll be like this close. Not for a while. Maybe the next 4 or 5 years.
I have to say, every party I went to over the past like 4 days was very PDA
really
centric.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
But it was the gays.
Yeah, I agree. That's true. It was very like almost to the point where it's like, girl,
put it back in the pants.
Yeah, we're gonna pay them. Like, calm down.
Okay. That's cool. These are from the text only parties. EDM from like Koala and stuff. Like you would get a text at about 2 a.m. to come to this club, to come to this venue, and you show up, and there'd be one of yours is from the Broom Factory was in here. When you lived in the Broom, they had those parties in the back.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I get a text, like come down here, and it'll be like these people like hanging at the Broom Factory. Like I think all because of like this is on this is right off Maryland Avenue in a warehouse. This one, but yeah, I think those like the whole DIY thing because of the UFO fire, right? Like 405s being sold, Area 405, and I bet you H&H isn't far behind. But who knows? Who knows? I mean, people might be the opposite. Just be like, I want to hang out and crowd surf. So yeah, this is shot for the lighting. I just put a lot of thought into lighting stuff. Is our time up, Trace? How are we doing?
Another minute or two.
Okay, all right. I mean, no one seemed to be leaving, so they're going to be in the photograph. Yeah, okay. If you want to keep going on the photographs, as long as I'm not boring people. This wolf pack is great. This is Transmodern Festival. And I tracked them down, Jason Wolfman, I tracked him down on Instagram. They were so happy to be in the book. He was like, oh my God, yes, I'm reading the picture. I love this one and the next one. This is Transmodern Festival. I love this picture. Everything about this is just gold. This is just great. This kind of encapsulates like the Baltimore festival, right? I mean, like Transmodern, Wordscape, Scapescape, all those things, right? Yeah. Oh, hi. Oh, yeah. Hi. Yeah. It's okay. Okay. Yeah. I'll definitely post something about autographed copy. I'm considering doing an event that I'll post later for people that can't make it to the Ivory. So keep your eye on my Instagram, and I'll announce that pretty soon. So don't worry if you can't make it on Saturday. Please come if you can. But if you can't, we'll do something. Photojournalist. She's retired.
Oh.
But I tracked her down via Instagram, and she was like, yes. I did a lot of, with a lot of the dancers and a lot of the people that were in here, I did really track down most people to get their permission, consent to be in the book. I'm really big into making sure people have, consent over their photographs and portraits. So I did that. One thing I do miss before we wrap it up, I do have to, okay. So this is the Baltimore Crown Awards in DDM. Did you ever go to these Crown Awards? Me?
I went to one of them. That was about it.
Okay. I mean, this is an observer. Okay, so the Baltimore Crown Awards was the awards for the local hip hop community by the local hip hop community. And I just thought that was I mean, that's so awesome, right? Like, they had their own award, and it was like word of mouth, right? Like, it wasn't a whole citywide sponsored event. This is at the Five Seasons right off Guilford Avenue, right back behind the Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
This is a Baltimore thing. But the people were so gracious and so nice, and like the music, I thought the music was great. We used to have those open mic hip hop nights where the cider place is now, the boxing gym right over off of Chase Street back there. If you flick through, let's flick through a couple more real quick. Because I think no, not that one. Keep going. That's Crown Awards. Okay, one more, I think. Crown Awards, definitely. Crown Awards. Yeah, these are all, that's dope body. Anyway, there's one here is a fantastic picture of, this is in the, if you back up real quick. This is the Asian night market after party. This is 2019, right at the end. Like right before the whole COVID thing went down. So like a roundabout there. This is like people crammed into that graffiti alley. That's Destruction on DJ Sean Smallwood. Shout out. Love him. I know. Right. I was celebrating about this picture. But there were the open mic hip hop nights that were held over on the other side of the bridge on Chase Street. Yeah, this is just this is burlesque stuff. And everyone, that knew I was there with the camera, these aren't secret photos. Like, people knew I was there taking these pictures. So it wasn't like, none of these are sneaky or creepy or anything like that. The dancers knew I was there. People from the club knew I was there. So people consented to all the stuff that you see in the book is consented to. This is TT the artist backup group this was TT's backup at Scapescape one year. It was good. Didi, I had pictures of you. I submitted them, but they didn't make the cut. But I have you also on the stage. Remember this? This was the Scapescape one year. You performed. This is when you tore your shirt off a couple times.
Yeah. That was quite eventful. When in Rome. Yeah. I've always had wherever the spirit moves me.
Yeah, but I do have a great shot of you again. I submitted over 500 and some photos. And 300 made the cut, so that's not bad. But I got a really good shot of you at Metro during a Rai show also. You played around with Rai. It showed okay. Shout out, he's going to Radio City. He's going to Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
Big winner at the casino. She loved the picture. This lady won big at the casino. This is lined up. This is 4 hours of fun night. So yeah, these are I tried to cover the whole city, and I hope I did a good job. I hope I did. Like Versailles did in Paris, like Bill Brandt did in London. I wanted to make Baltimore one of those cities that had a cohesive. This is the open. Okay, these are it. So this is the open mic night, hip hop nights. People could just come up and yes, I love this one. Come up and just grab the mic and do whatever, and it just had this flow to it that was great. It was fantastic. And then, like I said at the beginning, that's where I first met DDM was at Red Maple when you were doing the open mic, when you were doing the rap battle, which I wish they would bring back. The homeless lady. That's a juice bar now in Fells Point, or that's that she sweater shop or that bougie sweater shop in Fells Point. Yeah, I bought her the coffee. But that's like 95. This is that's my friend. I love that she had those made. I love those earrings. But yeah, anyway, I mean, thanks for coming. This is Pratt Contemporaries. Let's end on this, right? The Pratt's group, hopefully this year the gala will be back, right? We can all go have a good Pratt Contemporary black and white party. This is a Studio 54 party, which was probably my favorite off-site one. I think we had 2, but this is my favorite off-site one. And it makes a nice double truck spread if you get the book. So, yeah. Anybody else have any questions before we wrap it up and let everyone go on with their night? And it's a Tuesday, So, anybody else? All right. I love it that we pretty much kept our core group of participants. Watch the numbers. That's pretty good. So Saturday, our big announcement. Come join us at Ivy, where you can meet DDM and Michael. And myself, I'll be signing, and I can't wait for your playlist, DDM.
Oh, it's going to be a moment.
Good. Shake up Mount Washington.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's shake up Mount Washington. That'll be great.
Absolutely.
I'm excited. So, thanks, Lindsay. Thank you for all the participants, by the way. I thought it was gonna be like my mom and Kat, my wife, like, hey. But thank you for everybody for coming. This is great. Books will be on for sale at the Ivy if you guys can get them. So yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, this was so fantastic. So I want to thank you everyone for tuning in tonight and getting to experience all the photography or not all the photography, all of it's in here. But also getting to hear about all of these different experiences with Baltimore nightlife. Thank you to the Ivy. Yes, make sure you head there too on Saturday. Thank you to the Hearing and Speech Agency for providing accessibility with us tonight. And then of course, thank you, Joe, for your book, your photography, your documenting, and Michael and DDM, both of you, for all the art you do and for your conversation tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. This is great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And everybody get a library card before you log off. Everybody get a library card.
Yes, get a library card. You can check out the book from the library too if you want.
Can you really? Is it in the library?
Yeah, it's in the library. You are in the library.
Gosh.
Yes, as someone who was raised by a single mom, the library is my babysitter. So like me being in the library is like, you can't even imagine. That's awesome.
Yes, you are
So,
a part of us.
I want to strive for the red dots, and you can't take me out, but I'll get there one day.
Yeah, we'll have to. I'll put in a good word with the Maryland department.
Oh, sorry, you can't take that book out. Me and Abaddon, you can't take us out. Sorry.
All right, stay safe and take care, everyone.
Okay, see you guys on Saturday.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks.